Hi guys, welcome to chapter 3. I hope you are thorough with vowels and consonants now. In the last class, I introduced you to syllables and told you a little bit about vertical vowels, horizontal vowels and their structure that fits them into syllables. Now today we'll be dealing with a larger portion of this topic, syllables. We had only done a case where there is one consonant and one vowel. However, there are cases when there are more than one consonants in a syllable. Let's learn about those cases now. In the case of vertical vowels, this is how you write the second consonant at the bottom. A syllable can have one vowel but more than one consonant, which is why this second consonant is placed at the bottom of the vowel, or you can say below the vowel. And this is how we write the syllable C1, V and C2. You can look at an example here. How I have placed the N consonant at the bottom. Let's move on to horizontal vowels now. When there is a second consonant in picture, we write it below the vowel. However, it is vertically placed. So this is how the structure will look like. C1, V and C2. An example could be this, where Gh consonant is C2. Now this N consonant and this Gh consonant, both consonants at the bottom are called final consonant. And I will refer them as C2. Because of the final consonant C2, there are pronunciation rules to the newly formed syllable. Let's begin with the pronunciation rules for C2, that is the final consonant. By pronunciation rules, I essentially mean that the sound of the consonant may or may not change when it is C2. For example, the first point, we have consonant Gh, Kh and K. In normal case, they are pronounced as such, but when they take C2 position, their pronunciation changes to K. K. Please understand that you have to stop midway when you pronounce K. You don't say K properly, like if this syllable is in this syllable, if we remove the Gh consonant from the bottom, we pronounce it as Sa. Sa and Sa. All the three examples are pronounced as Sa. But when we add these three different consonants at the bottom, then the syllable becomes Sak. Sak. It's not Sak, it's Sak. So that means you have to stop midway. It also means, by the way, that you will have to remember the spellings of each syllable. Or if I may say that you will have to remember the spellings of each word, because otherwise you may not be able to figure out which consonant is at C2 position. Let's move on to the second point now. This consonant is consonant N. You'll be happy to know that its sound does not change even when it has taken C2 position. An example could be this. Now in this syllable, if I remove the N consonant at bottom, this would be pronounced as Na. Na. But if I add N consonant at the bottom, it would be pronounced as Nan. Nan. So you see, N consonant at C1 position or C2 position is pronounced just the same. There is no change in its pronunciation. Let's look at the third point now. In the third point, there are a lot of consonants. You may feel sad, but you'll have to devise your own method to remember all these consonants. These consonants like Dh, S, H, Jh, Ch, S and Th. All their sounds change when they are at C2 position and they are pronounced as T. T. But for this also, you have to stop midway. You do not say ta properly. You have to stop somewhere midway. Now, an example could be this. In this syllable, I have written ra in all the examples. Now, if I add these respective consonants at C2 position, then they will be pronounced as rat. Rat. I am not pronouncing it as rat. I am saying rat. Do you notice the difference? And all these syllables would be pronounced just the same, no matter which consonant it is. So again, that means you have to remember the spellings of each syllable and each word in both first and third case. Please remember the spellings and make sure to stop midway. In the first case, don't say it ka properly. You don't say sak, it's sak. It's not sak. And in this case, it's not rat, it's rat. Rat. Your tongue would be between your teeth. Let's move on to the fourth point. Here we have r consonant. For this consonant, when it is at C2 position, it will not be pronounced as r. It would be pronounced as l. L. An example could be this. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that you do not have to stop midway for the pronunciation of l? You can properly pronounce it as l. In this example, this syllable without r consonant at bottom is jha. But when I add the r consonant at C2 position, it becomes jhal. 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 I hope you got that. Let's move to the fifth point. This is consonant m. M. Here also you'll be happy to know that even at the C2 position, its pronunciation remains m. Like for example, in this syllable, if I write m consonant at the bottom, it will be pronounced as bham. And if I take this example, where m consonant is at C1 as well as C2 position, then this syllable will be pronounced as mam. Mam. So you see, the m consonant at both the positions is pronounced just the same. Moving on to the sixth case. This is the special case which I had dealt with in the last video. This is the ung consonant. Let's take this example. A. In this case, there is this consonant before the vowel, but I do not read the sound of it. Instead, I only read the sound of the vowel, which is A. However, when I add this consonant at C2 position, it has a sound, and that sound is ung. Ung. So this syllable becomes ang. Ang. When I say ang, I am only reading the consonant which is at the bottom, at C2 position. Let's take this example. In this syllable, if I remove the bottom consonant, then this syllable will be read as ya, which again means that I am only reading the sound of the vowel and not the consonant. But when I add the consonant at C2 position, I read that sound and I pronounce the syllable as yang. Similar examples could be these, where if I remove the consonant from C2 position, I will read them as ma, ra, jha. But when I add the consonant at C2 position, it becomes mang, rang, jhang. I hope you understood that. This is a special case, so please remember that the sound of this consonant only happens when it is at C2 position and not at C1 position. It has no sound when it is at C1 position, but it has an ung sound when it is at C2 position. Let's move to the seventh case now. We have the consonants bh and ph. For the bh consonant, at the C2 position, its sound changes to b, b. But for the ph consonant, the sound at C2 position changes to p. It is confusing, I know, but just remember that in this case also you have to stop midway. You do not pronounce them as properly b and p. Okay? Now in the first syllable, this bh consonant at bottom makes this syllable sound like bhap, bhap, which is more of a p sound. Bhap, because you are not saying bhab, you are saying bhap. But you don't say bhap. No, you have to say bhap. So stop midway, okay? And for this third example, this will be pronounced as chep, chep. This is a proper p sound, but you still stop midway, okay? For the bh consonant, let's look at another example, which is in the middle, this one. Now this will be pronounced without the consonant as G, G. But when I add the bh consonant at bottom, it becomes jib, jib. Now this has a slightly b sound. Nonetheless, you always stop midway and you don't say jib. You say jib, jib, like that. It is a tricky one, but you'll get to know as you learn more and more words in Korean. Let me tell you a trick. When there is a p sound for this consonant, then your lips will be closed. But when there is a b sound, your lips will not be closed. So I hope now you get how to pronounce the p and the b sound. And as far as in what cases you will pronounce bh as b and as p will vary depending on case to case basis. Let's move on to the next part. Now these 8th and 9th cases that you see, these are double consonants we have never studied in chapter 2, right? Let me tell you why. The reason is that these consonants are generally used at C2 position and never at C1 position, which is why they are not taught as a part of Hangul. If I were to explain it properly, in Hangul you may have studied these double consonants k, s and j, ch. Now all these consonants were taught as a part of Hangul because they can be used at C1 as well as at C2 position. However, the cases that you see in 8th and 9th point, they can only be used at C2 position but never at C1 position, which is why they are not taught as a part of Hangul. So the final rule is, the double consonants you have studied in Hangul, they can be used as both C1 and C2. But these consonants that you see in 8th and 9th point will never be used as C1. They will only be used as C2. I hope you got that. Let's move to the 8th case now. Now you see these 3 double consonants here, right? What you have to do is, you always pronounce the second consonant. It is as if the first consonant, that is r, is not even there. So we are left with gh, m and p. You always only pronounce gh, m and p, but as their original pronunciation rules, the way they are at C2 position. So do not forget the pronunciation rules for gh, m and p respectively while pronouncing them. In this case, I will pronounce this syllable as ik, ik, because at C2 position, gh is pronounced as k. Remember? Never forget that you only pronounce the second consonant in all the 3 examples. Moving on to the 9th point. Whenever you see any of these double consonants, you only pronounce the first consonant as per their pronunciation rule. You do not pronounce these second consonants at all. Let's look at these examples here. For the first example, I'll pronounce it as an. Do not look at the h consonant. For this example, I'll pronounce it as op. And for this, I'll pronounce it as chal. If I were to explain it further, I pronounce it as chal because the r consonant at C2 position is pronounced as l. So what I'm trying to say here is that whenever you see these double consonants, remember how they are actually pronounced and do not change their pronunciation rule. I hope you got that.